Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Our first story takes us to an artsy little town full of incense, kombucha, and questionable life choices, where one self-proclaimed spiritual queen decided to test another woman's Buddhism over a plate of fries. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Enlightenment doesn't come with a side of fries. On Saturday, I, 38-year-old female, went out to meet my friend, Jerry, 38-year-old female, in this small artsy village that's become a magnet for pseudo-hippies and wannabe spiritual nomads. You know the type, people who think being enlightened means walking barefoot, wearing flowy linen pants, and talking about energy while Venmo requesting you for coffee. Another friend, Brew, 41-year-old female, joined us later, and the three of us were having a nice stroll, people watching, chatting, soaking up the chaos, when Jerry suddenly bumped into someone she knew. Enter Lola. Lola was one of those people who announces her presence before she says a word. She radiated loud energy, jangly bracelets, big grin, the kind of person who touches your arm when she talks. From the moment she joined us, she took over the conversation, inserting herself into everything. I could see Jerry's polite smile tighten, but she didn't say anything. As we walked through the market, Lola stopped at a stall and bought herself a massive plate of food. Rice, potatoes, beans, the works, and started eating it right there with her hands. Not a utensil in sight. I didn't care, she wasn't hurting anyone, but she didn't offer to share a single bite either, which is fine, I didn't want it anyway. Still, that detail will matter later. Eventually, around 2 p.m., we decided to sit down at a little bar restaurant to rest. Jerry and I ordered beers, Brew ordered a tea, and Lola ordered nothing. She just plopped herself down with us like she was part of the group. I mostly stayed quiet while they chatted, happy to listen and people watch. Then Lola turned to Brew and asked bluntly, "So, how do you survive? Like, how do you make money?" Brew blinked, taken aback. I have a small online business," she said slowly. "Why?" Lola shrugged dramatically. "I'm just curious. I have no money right now, so I'm trying to learn how other people do it." The vibe immediately shifted from friendly hangout to uncomfortable job interview. Brew excused herself a few minutes later, saying she wasn't feeling great and heading home. That's when Lola, without missing a beat, flagged down the waitress and said, "Can I get some hot water?" She then grabbed Brew's empty teacup, poured the hot water into it, and started sipping like it was totally normal. I just watched, fascinated. This woman had absolutely no shame. She and Jerry started talking again, mostly about relationships and energy exchanges. Lola went on a full tangent about how people who have one-night stands are spiritually lost. Jerry, bless her patient heart, tried to gently challenge that belief. I just sat there in silence, trying not to roll my eyes. By this point, it was 3 p.m. and I was starving. I hadn't eaten lunch, and my breakfast had been a single piece of toast, so I ordered a portion of fries, literally the only vegan thing on the menu. When they arrived, I ate them, every last one. No sharing, no offering, just quietly refueling my blood sugar while these two debated enlightenment. Then came the moment of absurdity. Jerry, bless her again, mentioned casually that I'm Buddhist. Lola's eyes lit up with mock shock. "Wait," she said, eyebrows raised. "You're Buddhist? Really? That's surprising." I looked up from my fries. "Why's that?" "Well," she said, leaning forward, "Buddhists share. You didn't offer me any fries. That's not very Buddhist of you." I couldn't help it. I laughed. "Oh, did you offer me any of that giant plate of food you were eating earlier?" She froze. No answer. I smiled politely and said, "If you want fries, you can always order your own." That shut her up. Now, I know fries can look like a casual snack for the table, but these weren't. They were my entire lunch, and I was starving. She'd just eaten enough food for 2 people an hour earlier. Besides, nothing in the Noble Eightfold Path says I have to share my damn lunch with a freeloading stranger. The irony, of course, is that she's one of those bagpackers, white Europeans who backpack through poor countries, funding their travels by asking locals for charity or donations to support their spiritual journey. Basically, people who live off others while lecturing them about detachment from materialism. So no, I don't feel guilty for not sharing my fries. I'm a Buddhist, not the Buddha himself. Enlightenment doesn't mean being a doormat for moochers. And honestly, I may not be fully enlightened, but I am aware enough to know that my patience and my fries have limits. Lola sounds like one of those self-proclaimed free spirits who confuse entitlement with authenticity, the kind who think being broke and boundaryless is a personal trait. And our second story. You didn't expect that. I always thought the best job is the one where you can honestly say, I do this for free anyway. That was me. Company, R, sold airsoft guns and gear, and every weekend I played airsoft. Bonus, an employee discount. After a few failed attempts to explain to my friends why R's M4 replica felt better in hand than their old AK, I turned on a camera and started a small blog. Short reviews, honest impressions, hop-up tuning tips, simple and human. My direct supervisor waved it off. Go ahead and film, it's free advertising for us. That lasted until our department got a promotion from the underworld, a new boss. 27, hair on vacation, chin in a good mood, and ego in a permanent zenith. A relative of the director, they said, the kind who loves the words hierarchy and subordination because they at least explain something in his controlled chaos. He found my channel in the first month. What's this? He threw from the doorway, waving his phone. You're filming without permission? I have verbal permission from my manager, and I don't really need it. I buy things like any regular customer and share my own opinion. Verbal permission, he grimaced. If you don't understand subordination, I'll teach you. Either you delete everything and publicly apologize to me, or I fire you right now. I looked at him, at the phone, at the empty box from a new G36 replica, and suddenly felt something switch on in my chest. Flat and cool, like safety goggles before a game. You know, I said calmly, I've been thinking. My blog already brings in more than my salary. I'm quitting to do it full-time. What? He froze as if he hadn't heard. I'm going to HR right now, and thanks for not making me work out a notice. Get out, he rasped, and I better not see you again. I left, and then I filmed, edited, and learned lighting, worked on collaborations, 2 winners, 2 event seasons, dozens of field tests. Every clack of a bolt carrier on camera brought new subscribers. The channel grew like grass after rain. Exactly 2 years passed. I met another creator to shoot together. He winked. Cool that you and R are still on good terms. Official partner, huh? Me with R? I laughed. Nah, we split a long time ago after creative differences with the new boss. Then explain this. He showed me a banner on R's official page. I saw my face, a frame from one of my old videos, my handle, and underneath, the best products according to Channel X with an arrow to their store. For a moment, I felt hollow. Then I took a deep breath. They're serious? I said. All right then, let this be a lesson. First, I screenshotted everything. Banner, metadata, posts, cache, then a quiet message to a camera op friend. Need the exact frame with timecode. Yes, the one where I turned my head. Next, I wrote to the lawyer who handled a couple of recent ad campaigns for me. I need a demand letter, I said on the phone. Not just for the photo, there's more. Something about image rights? That and more. 3 months ago, I registered my likeness as a trademark in several classes for new deals. The name plus a logo with a stylized version of my face. I've got the certificate and, I paused, you know where we live. They take that seriously here. I know, the lawyer smiled into the receiver. Better than you think. We met the next day. He in a dark suit, me with a flash drive containing everything. My old videos with publication dates, screenshots of R's banners, their posts with my face dated across the last 3 months. It all looked as if I had officially endorsed their products with my name. Good afternoon, the lawyer began at the meeting in R's office where we'd been invited for a friendly conversation. Allow me to introduce myself. I represent Channel X. We're here with simple demands: cease unauthorized use of his name, image, and likeness, remove the banners, publicly clarify there is no partnership, and compensate for damages. 3 people sat across from us: the director, stern, tired eyes, the company's attorney, a neat woman with a cold gaze, and my old acquaintance, the boss, now puffier, hollow-eyed, with the same overture on his head. What damages? The boss spoke up. He filmed our products himself. We used a frame because it's a popular channel. It's promotion for him and for us. Promotion means a contract, I said evenly. agreed with payment or with clear usage terms. You didn't even ask. We have the right, the boss snapped. Public content, fair use, whatever. And anyway, he smirked, I've got grounds to sue you for those early videos. You worked for us then and filmed without permission. I looked at my lawyer. He gave a slight nod and pulled an envelope from his folder. We'll hold off on listing every applicable statute, he said gently. Just listen. First, you use my client's face and his handle in a way that suggests he endorses your products without a contract for months, linking to your store. Second, you use the wording, the best products according to Channel X. That creates the impression of an official partnership. Third, that's just marketing, the boss cut in. Everybody does it. Actually, no, the director spoke for the first time. His voice was level and cold. Not everybody. The lawyer nodded respectfully to the director and continued. Third, 3 months ago, my client registered a trademark that includes his public handle and a stylized facial likeness, the very one you used on the banner. Here's the certificate. And fourth, we're not in the U.S. or Canada. We're in a country where rights to a person's image aren't a theoretical comment section debate, but a concrete basis for liability. Recent legal changes allow us to treat commercial use of another's name and face as an unfair practice with a right to seek injunctive relief and compensation. Not to mention general civil provisions and personal data rules. I watched the boss's face go a bit watery. He swallowed. So, the company attorney began carefully, you're asserting that even if content is public, you can't create the impression of endorsement and partnership without permission, especially with a registered mark? Exactly, the lawyer replied, especially when the banner uses elements similar to the marked likeness and mentions the handle. My client's not a model in your ad campaign. He didn't give you rights to transfer his reputation to your sales. And about the old videos, I added calmly, you don't own them. I bought the products as a private individual. I didn't use ours logo without permission, didn't show company documents, didn't disclose trade secrets. Check your own policies. There's no clause forbidding an employee from running a hobby blog as long as he doesn't present himself as a company representative. The director was silent, then he turned to the boss. Is it true you personally approve using his face on banners without a contract? The boss snorted, it was a marketing initiative, no budget. It worked. It worked, the director said dryly, until it didn't. The lawyer set a folder on the table. We're not here out of spite. Here's the demand letter. Remove all materials, publish a clarification about the lack of partnership, compensate for reputational harm and expenses, and pay a reasonable license fee for unauthorized use of likeness during the relevant period. We're open to an out-of-court settlement, but we're confident in our position. And, he leaned back, if this proceeds, we'll seek an injunction, publication of the judgment, and damages. Silence fell. You could hear the air conditioner's quiet sigh. How much? The director asked at last. We named a figure. It wasn't astronomical. I wanted fairness, not a lottery win. The calculation was a standard licensing rate for using a public figure with my audience metrics, multiplied by the number of months and distribution channels, plus legal costs and a small risk premium. The company attorney typed quickly, scrolled, sighed. This is realistic, she said finally. And the clarification, the director asked? Brief, no details, the lawyer nodded, on the same platforms where the banners ran. The director nodded slowly, then he looked at the boss. And you? The boss stared at the table. I thought this was allowed. I'm family. Family isn't an indulgence for stupidity, the director snapped. Now listen closely. He turned back to us. We agreed to an out-of-court settlement on the stated terms, he said evenly. Public clarification, compensation, removal of materials. But I have one more question. We're listening, the lawyer said. You mentioned, the director paused, that the trademark registration is recent. Is it here in our jurisdiction? I smiled for the first time that meeting. Yes, here, with us, in South Korea. For a moment, it seemed the boss inhaled and choked on the air. The director closed his eyes, looking suddenly older. I understand, he said quietly. The paperwork was done in 2 days. We signed an agreement with clauses on takedown, clarification, compensation, and the classic NDA on the numbers. I didn't care. Numbers live in accounts. What matters lives in people's heads. When the signatures were dry, they asked me to stop by again. The director wants to say something personally. I entered the same office. The director stood by the window, by the door, the same boss, now missing a cuff button and any force in his voice. "Look," the director said without turning, "I could have dumped this on legal and your lawyer, could have pretended it's just business, but it's my fault I let some people here think family is a bulletproof vest against consequences." He turned. "I personally apologize for what happened. We crossed boundaries. We used your name and face like we'd bought them on clearance. That's neither humane nor professional. I'll sign the dismissal order for this employee today." The boss flinched. "Uncle," he groaned. "Exactly," the director answered softly, "uncle. And that's precisely why I placed you above your competence, giving you a role where your decisions would cost people money and reputation. My decision was a mistake. Yours was stupidity. The boss answers for mistakes, the author answers for stupidity." He turned back to me. "We'll post the clarification by this evening. Compensation within 5 business days, and," he pulled out a small box, "this was meant for our marketing genius last quarter, a little prize for creativity. Smash it if you like. Sell it. Throw it away. I don't care. I'd rather give it to someone who teaches us to play by the rules." I took the box, smiled. "You know," I said, "I wasn't taking revenge. I was just protecting boundaries. Boundaries aren't revenge. They're instructions." "Good instructions," the director nodded dryly, "unlike some others." We shook hands. I stepped outside where the wind was spinning yellow leaves. I called the lawyer. Done. I called my camera op friend. Video goes up tonight. Short. No mudslinging. I hit record and spoke straight into the camera, like always when real people are listening, not view counters. "Friends," I said, "sometimes it feels like you're small against the big guys, but the big guys stand on rules too. If someone uses you without permission, don't be afraid to say no. And one more thing, don't mix a hobby with servitude or kinship with impunity. More game, less drama ahead. See you on the field." A week later, I ran into a former colleague by a display of new rifles. "Heard?" he winked. "Your favorite isn't a boss anymore." "Heard," I smiled. "Time for someone to take off the helmet of pride and buy goggles of reality." "The director signed the order himself," he whispered. "And you know what's interesting? He added a clause to our internal rules about using bloggers' names and images. Now every new hire reads it with a pen in hand. At least some good came of it. And also," the colleague leaned in, "they're rethinking family appointments. Quietly, no press releases, but they're rethinking." I walked on down the aisles, brushing packages, listening to the soft rustle of plastic bags, as familiar as rustling leaves. You know, every game has a rule. Don't shoot your own. In life, it sounds different. Don't use someone else's boundaries as decorations for your ambitions. Your name, face, and reputation aren't public property for someone else's marketing. And family isn't a bulletproof vest. Nepotism doesn't excuse dumb decisions. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.